Hello, everyone, and a huge enthusiastic welcome to our Kahanionka Patara. Yep, our very own magical storybook explainer. I am absolutely thrilled you're joining me today. We are going to open up a super fascinating tale from the past. It's packed with goofy mistakes, really clever tricks, and a massively important lesson. We're looking at a story called The Monarch's Folly and the Minister's Wit, and we're going to see exactly how a seriously tricky situation was solved. And spoiler alert, it wasn't solved with swords or shields, but with pure, unstoppable brain power.
So right before we jump in, tell me something. Can being smart actually save the day? Go ahead and give me a giant nod right now if you think the answer is yes. I mean, have you ever been in a messy situation where you just had to use your brain to figure a way out? Well, keep that exact feeling in mind, because today we're going to see how one incredibly smart person used his wits to stop a whole kingdom from making a terrible, terrible mistake. All right, let's dive right into this.
Section 1. The Foolish King's Court. Okay, so I want you to imagine this grand palace, ruled by King Subhuti. Now, despite his name, which means good sense, he made literally the silliest decisions you could possibly imagine, always shouting orders in this goofy, booming voice. Well, one day, this very strange case gets brought to him. A thief broke his leg on a weak wall. Here's exactly what happened. This thief was trying to rob a merchant's house, right? He breaks through a wall, but the wall was so weak that it just collapsed right on top of him and broke his leg. Now, you'd think the thief would be in huge trouble for robbing a house, right? Nope. The thief's brother actually went to the king and demanded justice because the wall was weak. And what did King Subhuti do? He yells, "Bring me the merchant! Why did he build a weak wall?"
Section 2. The Silly Blame Game. So in King Subhuti's court, nobody ever wanted to take the blame for anything. The merchant comes crying to the king, pleading that it totally wasn't his fault, and the blame just gets passed along like a giant game of hot potato. First, the merchant says, "Hey, it's not me, it's the bricklayer who built the wall." So the king shouts, "Hang the bricklayer." But then the bricklayer shows up and says, "Wait, it's the water carrier's fault. He poured too much water and made my cement mix way too wet." Then the water carrier blames the butcher, who sold him a water bag that was just too big. And the butcher? Well, he blames the shepherd, who sold him a giant buffalo, which made the giant bag. Do you see how ridiculously silly this is getting? The blame just kept bouncing from person to person.
And that brings us to the shocking final verdict. The blame finally landed on this totally innocent, chubby shepherd who just happened to sell a buffalo. I mean, no way, right? But the stubborn king, in his big, foolish voice, just declares, "This shepherd shall be hanged tomorrow morning. My decision is final." It absolutely didn't matter that the shepherd had literally nothing to do with the wall. The king completely refused to listen to reason.
Section 3. The Clever Minister's Secret.
Up until now, we've had nothing but chaos and shouting, but right now, stepping into the court with a really calm, sharp, and highly intelligent presence is someone very special. Enter our hero, Minister Chatter Sen. And to match his brilliant mind, you got to imagine him wearing the absolute brightest, most vibrant colors. We're talking striking electric blue or a radiant, glowing yellow. These bright colors showed he was basically the shining light of intelligence in a very gloomy, foolish court. He had tried to tell the king that the shepherd was innocent, but since the king just wouldn't listen, Chatter Sen knew he had to use a trick.
All right, I'm going to pause right here for a second. The innocent shepherd is about to be punished, and the stubborn king won't listen to any logic at all. If you were the bright and clever Minister Chatter Sen, what would you do? Go ahead, shout your best guesses right at me. How on earth do you trick a foolish king? Do you have your idea? Okay, let's see what Chatter Sen actually did. So the next morning, the poor chubby shepherd is standing by the noose, and suddenly, out of nowhere, Minister Chatter Sen comes running up, and he literally pushes the shepherd out of the way. He starts this wild, confusing fight right there, shouting, "Move aside! I must hang on this noose first." And the shepherd, who Chatter Sen had secretly coached beforehand, starts arguing back, "No, please, let me hang." The king was completely baffled. I mean, people usually run away from punishment, but these two were fighting over it.
The king ordered them to stop immediately and demanded to know what on earth was going on. And this is where Chatter Sen leaned in. Lean in closely with me right now. He dropped his voice to this slow, dramatic whisper, just loud enough for the greedy king to hear, and said, "Your Majesty, today is a rare, magical, and auspicious time. Whoever hangs right now will become the emperor of the universe in their next life. I am old, and I want to be the emperor."
Section 4.
The Greedy King's Trap. Oh, the clever minister knew exactly what his boss's biggest weakness was. It wasn't logic, it definitely wasn't fairness, it was pure, unfiltered greed. That trap was about to snap tightly shut. I want you to imagine the king's face as he processes this secret, changing from confused to a sickly bright green and then dark purple with extreme jealousy. His eyes bulged out. Overwhelming greed just completely took over his entire mind. He couldn't stand the idea of anyone else, especially his minister or some chubby shepherd, becoming the emperor of the universe.
And so, in his booming, greedy voice, the king furiously yells, "Stop! Nobody will hang! I am the king of this land, so only I have the right to be emperor of the universe." And he just completely orders his guards to step aside so he can claim the ultimate magical prize all for himself.
And wow, that is exactly what happened. The king happily took the news for himself. Minister Chatterson simply folded his hands and calmly said, "As you wish, Your Majesty." By using an incredibly clever lie that was tailored perfectly to the king's foolishness, Chatterson achieved two amazing things at once. He saved the life of the innocent shepherd, and he freed the entire kingdom from a foolish, stubborn ruler forever.
Section 5. The Big Smart Lesson. We've had a lot of fun exploring this chaotic court today, but there's a deeply important takeaway hidden inside our storybook explainer. Think about the foolish king for a second. He relied only on his authority. He was stubborn, loud, and ultimately, his greed was his total downfall. But Minister Chatterson, he was bright, observant, and clever. He didn't use force or anger at all. He simply used his brain power to outsmart the problem.
So what are our really crucial takeaways here? First, using your brain always beats a foolish boss or a silly situation. You definitely don't have to shout the loudest to win. And second, smart thinking is the ultimate tool to get you out of big trouble. Intelligence, when you use it at exactly the right time, is basically a superpower.
And that brings me to my final big question for you to think about as we wrap up today's explainer. How will you use your smarts today? Remember, whenever you face a problem that seems way too big or, honestly, just too silly to handle, just channel your inner Minister Chatterson. Put on your bright, clever colors, take a big, deep breath, and use that amazing brain of yours. Thank you so much for exploring this story with me today. And hey, keep being brilliant.